Welcome to Sail America's 2020 Pacific Sail and Powerboat Show Seminar Series. Today's webinar is titled Mast to Keel, Keeping It Clean and Your Playground Pristine. Adrien, Baudrimont, and Vivian Matuk will discuss some simple environmentally sound boating practices that can be implemented to address oil, fuel, trash, and sewage. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us here and for this great opportunity. My name is Vivian Matuk. I'm the Environmental Boating Program Manager for both the California State Parks and the California Coastal Commission. And I'm very happy and honored to be here with you today, and also with my colleague, Adrien Baudrimont, with the Estuary Partnership. Adrien.
Hi, thank you so much for having us here. My name is Adrien Baudrimont. I'm with the San Francisco Estuary Partnership, and I am the program manager for the Clean Vessel Act program that we have here at the Estuary Partnership. And I'm thrilled to be here and to be talking about some good practices when handling your sewage on board. Thank you.
Great. And on behalf of our organization and agencies, we wanted to say thank you to Sail America for this great opportunity. We are all facing a big challenge with the coronavirus right now, but these bring us to another level where we need to be creative and continue to offer education to our boating community. So we're very thrilled to be here with this great opportunity. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to start first with a bird's eye view perspective about the importance of boating in California. Of course, you are boaters, but it's always great to refresh our memory about the importance this recreational activity has in our state. Then I'm going to encourage you to receive the free California Boater Kit, and I'll tell you how. And then Adrien and I will be talking about how you can continue to be a clean and green boater by implementing some easy clean boating practices related to oil, fuel, trash and marine debris, and of course, sewage. Adrien will be in charge of the sewage section. So let's go ahead and get started. California has, excuse me, one of the highest levels of recreational boating activity in our nation. For the last several years, California has ranked among the top 3 states, with Michigan and Florida, with respect to the number of recreational boats. Currently, we have approximately 1 million registered boats, over 4 million recreational boaters, and the total annual economic impact of boating in California is around $8.9 billion. As California population increases, so does the popularity of boating as a recreational activity. In order for all of us to continue to have this great recreational activity across the state, it is important that we implement some clean and safe boating practices. So how can you receive our free California Boater Kit? The free California Boater Kit looks exactly like the one you see in your slide right now. And I'm also right here holding one of them. It's a great comprehensive packet of clean and safe boating information that contains, as you can see here, some pollution prevention tools, including our oil absorbent pillow, the oil absorbent sheet, which is actually the wrapper of the boater kit, and also Field Beep, the ABCs of boating law, some discount coupons, environmental boating laws, among others. So for you to get a hold of one of these great California free boater kits, please go to this particular URL, fill out a 2-minute questionnaire that will help us to better orient our education and outreach efforts. Give us your contact information, and then we will ship the boater kit to you. But don't forget to do that. That's very important, and that's the only way that we will be able to send you the free California Boater Kit. All right, so make sure that you write that particular URL. And now let's start with some clean boating practices. We all know that oil and fuel contain hydrocarbons and heavy metals, which are highly toxic to human health and the aquatic environment. For example, just to give us some important information, 1 gallon of oil from an oil change can ruin 1 million gallons of drinking water, which is the annual supply for 50 people. That's a very striking fact that is important for us to keep in mind. We all know that boat engines, like any other engine, tend to leak oil and fluid and other liquids depending on how often you use your boat, how old the engine is, and how well maintained the engine is. Most of the boats have installed on board an automatic bilge pump that works as follows. When the water at the bottom of the bilge or the bilge water reaches a certain level, that activates a sensor that then activates the automatic bilge pump out, so then that bilge water gets discharged overboard. So if you have an impeccable, as I'm assuming you do, and clean bilge, of course, that bilge water is not going to have any problem. But if, unfortunately, sometimes we're not diligent practicing preventive engine maintenance, we can run into bilges that look like this. And of course, I know that you guys probably don't have one of those. But in order to prevent that, the first recommendation to prevent pollution, of course, is to prevent the problem in the first place. So the first recommendation is to practice preventive engine maintenance, like we do with our cars, of course, making sure that the gasket, the fuel lines are properly connected, the engine is operating at peak efficiency and is also well tuned. And that practice should be combined with the use of oil absorbents. Oil absorbents are a very easy pollution prevention tool to be used. You can find them at any marine supply store or order them online now that everybody has access to internet. They come in different shapes. As you can see in the upper left corner of the slide, we have what we call the sausage or a sock that is to reach deep compartments. We have the pillow and the oil sheet, like the one that I'm showing to you right now, that actually come in your boater kit. And you can buy them also at your local marine supply store. Actually, in your boater kit, you're going to find a West Marine discount coupon, so you can probably use it for one of those pollution prevention tools. These absorbents can be used directly into the bilge, under the engine, when you're changing your oil, when you're filling up your tank, and if you have an accidental spill. So as you can see in this particular slide, any type of motorized vessel, even if you have an inboard, outboard, or actually outboard, benefits from the use of these pollution prevention tools, as you can see here. When we talk to boaters, a lot of you say, hey, you know, our bilge is totally clean. I don't need to have one of those. We always recommend, as a best management practice to prevent pollution, to always have one of those absorbents, even if you have an impeccable bilge, because, you know, accidents can happen. So it's a good pollution prevention tool. The pillow that we're giving you in the boater kit that you will be receiving after going to our website absorbs up to a quart of oil, and it looks like this. We recommend it, if you use it in the bilge, to use this fabric glue and this releasable zip tie, so you secure the pillow in the bilge so it doesn't clog or foul your bilge sensor or your bilge pump. Once it is saturated, excuse me, in California, it's presumed to be hazardous waste for obvious reasons. First of all, make sure that once it's totally saturated, you remove it with gloves so you protect yourself. You put it in a bag or container and you bring it for proper disposal. In California, the way that you can properly dispose of the used oil absorbents includes, first of all, ask your marina if they do distribute and collect oil absorbents. That's what we call an oil absorbent exchange program. Or you can also go to your county household hazardous waste collection center. You can browse for local information, or you can also visit, as you can see here, Earth 911 to check where your county household hazardous waste collection center is. Never put the used oil absorbents in the trash. These are examples of different marinas across the state, so you see that they do exist. For example, the upper left corner is in Long Beach in San Pedro. Then right here to your bottom left is in Lake Berryessa, and to the bottom right is a marina in the Delta, Bethel Harbor. They do offer absorbent distribution and collection. But again, if your marina doesn't have that service, go to your county household hazardous waste collection center. In your Great Boater Kit, we have a couple of resources that will connect you to where the pollution prevention services are, including, as you can see in this slide, the San Francisco Bay and Delta map, they have the counties, the marinas, and the list of the marinas and the pollution services they offer right there. In the boater kit, we also have the tide book. In the back, we have charts with counties and some of the marinas and the pollution prevention services, where, for example, oil absorbent distribution and collection is also included. Some of you may also want to use one of the bilge pump out services that are found at marinas across the state. Also, that information is included in those resources. So what happens if a spill happens? Because, you know, accidents happen. The first thing that we need to remember is that any spill that creates a sheen on the water must be reported. Anything that causes a sheen or a film on the water should be reported. That information, as well as other federal and state laws, are included in your environmental boating laws brochure, included in your boater kit as well. If the accident happened, make sure that you stop the source, that you shut off the power. First of all, always notify your marina, because marina has staff trained for response, so that's great. And also they want to work with you if an accidental spill happens. And then call both the National Response Center and the California Office of Emergency Services. You have that information right there on the slide. However, in your boater kit, that can be also found in the grade binder card that you have in your boater kit, where the information is right there, as well as in the back of the tide books in your maps, and of course, in front of your boater kit. You know, it is important to remember that any spill needs to be notified. People sometimes get scared, but remember that reporting a spill doesn't always result in a fine. Accidents happen. The important thing is that you report them, because if you don't report them, that can result in potential fines. If it's a spill of oil or diesel, make sure that you contain it by using some of the absorbents and doing the proper reporting. If it's gasoline, don't contain it, because it's highly flammable and volatile, so work with the authorities and the marina staff in that case. Again, the great news is in your boater kit, you're receiving the oil absorbent sheet as well as the pillow, so you're starting with the right foot just for any spill that you have. Remember that it is illegal to use soaps or detergents to mask any spill on the water. It is illegal by the federal and state law, and in addition to that, you're adding a new chemical into the water that is not okay to be added, and that harms the environment. This was a really common practice back in the 80s, and people will feel that, you know, the problem is disappearing, but in reality, the soap and the detergents emulsify the oil. So the oil, instead of staying on top of the water, is going to start moving into the entire water column and even get mixed with the sediment. So you're not doing a good job. And if you're a good boater and you're using your absorbent, that's going to render the absorbent as inefficient. So, or it's going to impact the mechanical function. Let me show you how the absorbents work. So I'm just going to stop here the screen, so I can show you right now. I have here some water, and I'm going to be adding here oil just to pretend that we're having a spill. So let's go back to our biology and chemistry classes. Difference in density, we see clearly here how the oil floats on top of the water. And I'm going to use a piece of one of the absorbents that you will be receiving or you can find in the market, just to show you that in reality they work. So as you can see here, the absorbent is doing a fantastic job of really cleaning up that water. And let's say that I'm going to show you the fact that using soaps is not good, because A, we know that it's illegal, affects the mechanical function of the absorbent, and it will destroy the absorbent. So look how good the quality of the water is. Really quickly, if I add the soap and I leave the soap there for a little bit of time, you will see, and I'm going to get really closely to you, that the oil is moving back into the water, as you can see here. And then the absorbent, you can see some of the droplets moving back into the water, as you can see here. And then the absorbent will fall apart. So it's a very good practice just to show that the absorbents in reality do work, and that is not good to use the soaps. Let me just go back to my presentation here. Okay. Another practice that is good for all of us is to make sure that we always recycle used oil and oil filters. A lot of you may have contractors who help you with that task. If it's applicable to your boat, always make sure your contractor as well as you encourage them to recycle oil. California, unfortunately, on an annual basis is not properly recycling over 20 million gallons of used oil, which is a lot, and we can do better because it's a natural resource and can be reused many, many times. The first options we have, even if you're not a boater, any person in California can go to our certified used oil recycling centers. They are identified by this logo, and they can be at a gas station, auto part, or a store, or a marina. There are over 3,000 centers, and you can find them by visiting earth911.org. You can bring up to 5 gallons at a time and get paid 40 cents per gallon. Or there are other facilities like marinas that don't necessarily are certified by the state, therefore they don't have this logo, and they may charge for a little fee for the recycling. So make sure that you have those facilities handy. These are examples of certified marinas or certified used oil recycling centers at marinas. The upper one is in Brisbane Marina, San Mateo County. The one at the bottom is in Marina del Rey. You can also recycle used oil and oil filters, as I mentioned already, at car shops, as you can see in some of these pictures. Great resource to keep handy, not only for you or even your contractor, just to know how to give a second, third, and fourth life to that used oil. Well, I'm not interacting with you, but a common question that we get is why do boats fuel differently than cars? And mainly is because the fueling system of a boat is open. In other words, we're filling up the tank here, here is the tank, and then somewhere in the boat, we will find the fuel tank vent, which the main purpose is to allow vapors to escape. And unfortunately, because of this structure and design, is one of the primary places where spills occur during fueling, as reported by the Boat US Foundation. And we understand it's a tricky practice for boaters to fill up a tank. So the first recommendation that we want to give you is make sure that you always keep safety in mind. Have handy a fire extinguisher that is in good conditions. Make sure that electronic equipment and the engine is off, and make sure that you know how much fuel you need to add to your boat. Make sure that the fuel nozzle is in contact with the fuel tube to avoid a static. Make sure that you pay attention to the change in the tone, because as the tank gets closer to being full in capacity, you can hear the change in the tone. And leave it 90% of tank capacity. Don't top it off, because as you know, changes in temperature, like if we have a very cold day and the next day is super hot, it can expand the fuel and you can generate a spill, or changes in altitude, among others. And always have handy oil absorbents, like the one that I showed you at the beginning of the presentation. As you can see here, these gentlemen or a boater is using one of them. Also in marine supply stores, you can find the one that is called the fuel donut. But guess what? In the boater kit, we have another great resource for you, which is the fuel bib that you can see here right there in your boater kit, in the slide, which is like the one that I'm showing you right here, exactly like that. You use it like the gentleman is doing right there. And once you use it, you may have a couple of leaks and drips there. Make sure that you put it in a bag or container away from sources of ignition or the heat, and you can reuse it many times. Once this fuel bib is saturated, make sure that you bring it to your county household hazardous waste collection center for proper disposal. Pretty easy. You browse that in your favorite browser, and then you will properly dispose of that. Any hazardous waste, make sure that you bring it to your county household hazardous waste collection center. For marine flares, we're trying just to promote the use of the LED flares, like the one that you see here. It's much better than the traditional flares for many reasons. And again, you can use your marine discount coupon found in your boater kit to get a hold of one of these flares. And you can go to your county household hazardous waste for other waste disposal. Trash and marine debris is a universal problem that is impacting us all. Just think about any day of your day that you don't run into a plastic bag or cigarette butt, among others. And the statistics and studies are really overwhelming in terms of the data showing that, for example, in the Pacific, in the Central North Pacific Gyre, there's a ratio of 6 parts of particles of plastic versus 1 part of zooplankton, when should be the opposite. Studies recently developed by the University of Georgia shows that it is estimated that 8 million metric tons of plastic waste enters our ocean every minute. For us to understand that number, it's better just to think about a comparison, and is the equivalent to emptying a garbage truck of plastic into the ocean, entering into the ocean every minute, which is really, really sad. And we know that it's a problem that is impacting the entire water column, not just the top of the water column, like a lot of people think about this floating island the size of Texas. That's not really true, because as we all know, plastic comes in different densities. So when they enter into the environment, they become brittle because of the wave action, the sunlight, and then some can float, some can get suspended in the water column, or some can sink. So it's like pretty much the problem in the ocean is like what I would say like a minestrone soup across the water column. We know that boaters are not the main polluters because most of the marine debris comes from the upper part of the watershed, but we can take some actions when we are out there on the water. Make sure that we know the laws. It is illegal to discharge any trash in the navigable waters of the state, and of course, any plastic anywhere in the ocean. Make sure that you stash your trash, that you bring your trash and recyclables back on shore, that you avoid excess packaging, that if you are out there and you see some trash like here, make sure that you bring it back on shore, and invest in reusable coffee mugs and water bottles and your shopping bags. Say no to single-use disposal items. And if you belong to a yacht club or a marina, encourage them to start implementing a no single-use plastic law. And also join us on Coastal Cleanup Day, which is the largest volunteer event. This year will be on September 26th. Check our website at coast4u.org. And what you can do, now that I'm going to transition and turn over to the presentation to Adrien, make sure that you get your boater kit. Make sure that you go to this very easy website link. Fill out your questionnaire, use the pollution prevention tools from now on. Even if you have a great boat, remember accidents may happen. Know your laws, use the pollution prevention services found in your maps at marinas, and talk to your peers and spread the word out. Again, make sure that you get your boater kit. And now I'm going to turn the presentation over to my colleague, Adrien. Take it from here, Adrien.
Thank you so much, Vivian. So let me share my screen. Here we go. All right. Okay, so thank you so much for participating in this webinar once more. My name is Adrien Baudrimont, and I'm working with the San Francisco Estuary Partnership. We have a grant from the Division of Boating and Waterways to promote clean practices when it comes to waste. So our main audience are boaters like you, and also marina managers. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to run through a few facts and a few informational items before I end up with the resources that actually are available to you for you to use. First of all, environmental impact. So I think we all know by now that waste in the waterway is a huge issue, and we know that it's a source of nutrients as well as pathogens that can cause disease, and of course also chemicals that might come from your boat. We also might all think that, okay, you know, the water body, the ocean, the bay, the delta, whatever it is it's huge. You know, what is my impact on that? How can my boat impact such a big body of water? But actually, the impact is very much real, and you probably have come across it already. If you're in the San Francisco Bay Area or in the Delta, you might have seen beach closures that might have occurs because of an unsafe level of chemicals or nutrients or pathogens that were present in the water. You might know that you cannot eat anything that comes from the bay because of pollution, and pollution from waste that comes from boats might be one source. It also has some direct human health impacts, of course. You can get sick if you are in close contact with the pathogens that comes from a holding tank. And lastly, you might have seen or experienced those algae blooms that you can see in some of the areas of the Delta or in areas where there is not a lot of flush. Because of course, the more algae you have on the surface, the more oxygen is being like retrieved and removed, and so it can really harm marine life. Let's keep in mind that everything is connected, and hopefully one day we'll be able to eat these oysters that we're trying to reinstall in some parts of the bay. The second part of my presentation is about what is on board. What do we have in most of the boats here in the region? So there is something called a marine sanitation device, or also known as MSD. And there's a few types of those out there. The type 1 and type 2 marine sanitation devices, MSDs, are actually treating devices that can treat most of the pathogens and also try to clean as much as they can the holding tank. Something to keep in mind though is that it's doing so by using chemicals, and that whatever comes out of it is actually loaded with those chemicals. So it's not the quality that you might expect from a wastewater treatment plant, of course, by very, very far. And then we have the type 3 devices, which is pretty much a simple holding tank for your sewage. Not so much treatment in type 3 devices. Another very critical, important component of what is in your boat is what we refer to the Y valve. It is on each and every boat. It looks a little bit different, though it's not always something that has the shape of a Y, but its function is the same. It's to divert the holding tank between two directions. Either it goes overboard, or and it goes overboard through the hull, so underneath the water, or it goes overboard through the deck fit, which is on the top of your boat. It is required by law that when you are navigating, you secure this Y valve, so the flow is per default going in the deck direction, which means that it won't go in the water without you knowing it, which is very important and critical. The rules and regulations, very quickly, treated discharge from type 1 and type 2 devices. As I said, it's there is some sort of level of treatment, but it's not enough for having some clean effluent out of your boat. Discharging sewage is illegal in these restricted areas, regardless of treatment. So you cannot discharge in marinas, of course, yacht harbors, freshwater lakes and impoundments, rivers that don't support interstate traffic, swimming and wading areas, and poorly flushed areas, which might sound a little bit like common sound, because those are areas where there's not a lot of movement of water, and this is where there's the most boats and also the most people enjoying the water. Lastly, there are a few no discharge zones in our state. In the region here in Northern California, we have the Richardson Bay, the entire Richardson Bay, and also Lake Tahoe. Regardless of treatment, you cannot discharge in federal no discharge zones. Now regarding untreated sewage from holding tanks, which are the MSD type 3. It is illegal to discharge holding tanks into any waters of the US, including marine sanctuaries and protected areas, anything inside of the 3-mile territorial limits. So that's why it's very important to understand the Y valve position and to make sure that it's actually pointing in the right direction when you are out there navigating. A little map here, just to let you know that the 3-mile territorial limit is actually much more than that in our region, because beyond our coast and the Golden Gate Bridge, there are a few national marine sanctuaries that actually are taking a lot of miles offshore. So it is not like you can just go out there and you will have to travel pretty far away to go beyond an area that is actually safe. Now, there are a few resources for boaters that we have been creating and compiling here at the San Francisco Estuary Partnership. You can find all of them if you go to this URL that is displayed on screen, sfestuary.org/boating. And I'm gonna quickly run through some of them and then spend a little bit more time on 2 of those. So very quickly, we do a lot of boat shows and yacht club presentations. This presentation should have been in person, of course. We created the guide and maps, which are for boaters that show you the location of pump out stations in the Bay Area and in the Delta. You will see that there's contact information like the hours of operation, the cost, and all the very useful information you would need if you were to search for a pump out station. We also translated it in Spanish. Both maps can be found as PDF on our website, of course. We have a few newsletters, so we write articles that are related to clean vessel practices on a regular basis. And lastly, I want to spend a little bit more time on one of the tools that we've been promoting as much as we can, which is called Pump Out Nav. It is an app, it's free, and it works for both Apple and Android devices. You might have seen some promotion on your Facebook or Twitter feed. We've been partnering with the Division of Boating and Waterways to promote this app as much as we can. Some of the Instagrams here, et cetera, et cetera. And lastly, one new tool is a deck adapter kit. And I'm going to spend a little bit more time on that further in my presentation. All right, Pump Out Nav. Once again, it is free. You just have to go to your app store on your phone and search for it. Once you have it, you will land on a map with a few pins, and all those pins are pump out stations. If you want to display a different type of disposal unit, you can also search for dump stations and floating restrooms. In our regions, there are less dump stations and less floating restrooms, because floating restroom could be found more inland. And this is a work in progress, so we are adding pins as we are adding facilities. The very useful thing is that you can then click on one of these pins and you will have all the information that you need to actually access it. You will have the phone number, contact information, hours of operation, price, if any. And of course, you will have the status of this unit. So for example, here we have the pump out stations, and we monitor those pump out stations 4 times a year to make sure that the status is correct. The color of the pins are as such. Green ones are for our operational pump out stations. The red ones are for non-operationals. The orange ones are ones where users have reported an issue. And I'll go back to that a little bit down. And lastly, there is a new color that we added recently, which is the blue color, which means that we don't have a proper status because we haven't been monitoring this specific unit, which means that if you come across a blue pin, it would be better to call directly using the app to make sure that this unit is actually functioning. Another thing that is really useful in this app is that it has a learn section, which contains everything that I've discussed before, everything, all the outreach material that we have in our maps, everything is actually in this app. It also has really good first-time user information. If you have never used the pump out station before, you can actually, in the app, watch a video that shows you step-by-step how to do it. If you have questions about the Y valve that I just discussed, you can actually go in the app and there is a video that shows you exactly how to set it up properly. You can also find some really great information on the regulations around sewage and also mobile pump out companies information in your area, if any. That's how it looks like when you click on one of those pins. You can zoom to a satellite image to see exactly where the unit is located in the marina. You have information on how to reach it and also the hours of operation. You have a little phone icon here. You can directly call the marina through the app by tapping this button here. And you can store it if you want then to come back to it in your profile section, and you will have a short list of all the units that you prefer to go to. And lastly, you can report a problem. So that's something you don't need to log in to create an account or anything. Any user of the app can actually press this button and report if there is anything that is wrong with the unit. If you arrive there on site and there are sea lions sitting right there, maybe you don't want to use this pump out station, and maybe you want to let the community know that there's something weird. So you can enter a little text here if you want, and you tap those tiles like, okay, there is no access because of sea lion presence, for example. You can take a picture directly through the app and send it. When you do that, not only the CVA manager from the region receives an email, but also the marina manager receives an email, which means that we can then work together to fix the issue as fast as possible. All right, that's all I have for Pump Out Nav. Just remember that it's a free app, and we encourage you to download it and play with it and see all the good information there. And if you have any feedback, don't hesitate to reach out. The last and new resource that I have for you, it's also a pollution prevention tool. It's called a deck adapter kit. It's a little piece of plastic that you can screw directly in your deck waste fitting on the deck of your boat. And that allows you to actually use the pump out without having to use the nozzle, which is sometimes missing or sometimes has a defective part. So that allows you, once it's screwed into the deck, to actually clamp the hose and then walk away and do the pump out and enjoy a hands-free experience that might be actually better. So this is also a free tool. It's a successful pilot project, also funded by the Division of Boating and Waterways. We have limited quantities, but we are happy to ship you one of those if you request it through our website. A little caveat is, of course, due to the situation that we're living right now, there will be some delay in shipping those items, but whenever we are able to go back to our offices, we will ship those out. Very lastly, I'm going to play a little video. It's 2 minutes. It's about these adapter kits.
In this video, we will show you how to use a hands-free adapter on your deck waste fitting to pump out your boat's holding tank. Properly pumping out your boat's holding tank is an important part of being a boat owner and helps keep the waterways clean for everyone. Pumping out can be simplified if you have one of these deck adapters on board. There are 2 common sizes of adapters. We find that many boats need a 1.5-inch thread, but yours may require a 1/4-inch thread or a different size altogether. Be sure to measure the waist fitting on your boat before ordering the adapter. Now we'll take a look at how to use one of these to pump out a boat. First, locate the nearest functioning pump out. You can do this by consulting our clean boating maps or by searching online for facilities near you. You can also use the free Pump Out Nav mobile app. Open the app to find the closest operational pump out. The app will give information on cost, hours, and where in the marina the pump out is located. To use the adapter, you'll need a pump out unit that has a detachable nozzle. Not all pump outs have these quick connect parts. Ask your marina to install a detachable nozzle and secure it. A zip tie or a chain can prevent it from going swimming. When you're ready to pump out, put on your gloves and remove the deck waist fitting from your boat's holding tank. Screw in the threaded adapter. Clamp the hose to the adapter. Once the connection is secure, open the valve, pump out as usual, and enjoy a hands-free experience. When finished, give your holding tank a rinse with clean water, then stow your adapter for the next pump out. These adapters can be found at your local marine supply store, or you can visit these websites for more information and to order other pollution prevention materials. Thanks for watching and for doing your part to keep our waterways clean.
All right, so that was all about the deck adapter kit. Once again, you can find those at Marine Supplies, or you can order one from us in the URL that I will be displaying in my next slide, if I can go to my next slide. Here we go. All right, thank you so much for being good stewards of the environment. Here, a little reminder on the 2 great pollution prevention resources that we are offering for free. The first one is the California Boater Kit, and you can visit the URL here. And after a quick survey, you will be then receiving this kit. Once again, with the caveat that there will be some delay due to the COVID-19 situation. The same is for the adapter kit that you can order at the URL there. Just give us your contact information and we will ship those as soon as possible. You can find here our 2 contact email addresses. If you have any question, feel free to reach out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.
Thank you, Adrien and Vivian, for joining us, and everyone who has joined us today. You can see more of Sail America's 2020 Pacific Sail and Powerboat Show seminar series in our virtual seminar library at pacificboatshow.com.